And now we have a third speaker, very, very proud to call on Mr. Zhang, please, if I pronounce it correctly. Sonic is also very well known in the industry. He's founder of ValueNet Capital, a blockchain-focused venture capital fund. He also heads 20 Nations League of Blockchain, an international NGO focused on bridging blockchains and cryptocurrency communities. Thank you. Very proud to have you, and thank you for coming.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Zhang, and I'm the founder of ValueNet Capital. I'll tell you a bit about myself first. I actually started in the cryptocurrency or blockchain industry very late. I only got in last August, and I bought my first Bitcoin in August, and then that is for paying to get a roadshow tour in the blockchain center in Melbourne. To Martin, yeah, exactly Martin. So that is when I realized that the cryptocurrency is much better than any international remittance you can have, and that's when I decided to jump in right away. And so the blockchain group of that time is my client. I used to have an internet company where we do global marketing for Chinese internet giants like Tencent or Ctrip. And they asked me to do a global roadshow tour for them, so in 10 different countries and within a month. And we did it. And we did it very successfully, and with the help of Martin, of course. And they really loved the job we did, and I approached them to acquire us. Basically, if they don't, we would just go there anyway, because we just found out that this industry has so much potential, that blockchain technology is so disruptive, it will just change the world. I think every generation has their chance of going to the top. I think this is our generation's opportunity. And yeah, and so since then I've been working in that group to help them to do global marketing. Basically, after the 4th of September ban, maybe every one of you know, the Chinese government released an announcement saying that Bitcoin trading is illegal in China, and it is the reason that Bitcoin is not a central bank recognized currency. So you can't use Bitcoin to buy something else. And ICO is basically using Bitcoin to buy tokens. So they banned that. And of course you can't buy a coffee using Bitcoin. It's just like you can't buy a coffee using gold, right? And since then I found out that the blockchain technology is actually a ledger technology. And ledger has been around since the 2,000 years ago, like the tribal ages, where the chief of the tribe, when they hunt for a boar or a deer, he will decide whose family will get the leg, whose family will get the head. And that is basically a ownership of something. It's a ledger technology. So since then, the record of ledger technology has been improved. Before it used to be writing on the wall. And when the paper came out, you can write it on a paper. And when the computer came out, you can write it in a spreadsheet. But the core of the ledger technology never changed. It is still a centralized technology. But everything changed since 2009 when Bitcoin came out. We have a ledger where everyone can write on it and no one actually owns it. So for the centralized ledger, say you own a company, right? The company structure, the major shareholder, you are the owner of that company. You have the right to write on that ledger. You own the right of the ledger, so you have the total power of that company. But for a decentralized ledger, everyone can write on it. You just need to download a open source code to run it on your computer. And everyone can do transaction on it without any regulation or third-party monitoring. And I think it's going to change the whole industry, whole fintech industry first. So Bitcoin is only the first product of blockchain technology, obviously, and Ethereum and some other project came after that. So what we do in ValueNet Capital is we invest into cryptos and we invest into tokens as well. So basically we will do tradings on future and spot. We hedge the risks of future and spot tradings. We took 40% of our total holdings in hedge tradings. We make generally 50 to 100% gains annually just through hedge trading because the market is fluctuating so quickly. And we do spot trading for secondary market, basically buying and selling tokens and cryptos. We generally do 50% gains every quarter. And the third part is for ICO investment. And we make sure that if we fail every ICO investment we make, we will still be making money for the whole fund more than any traditional VC can ever do. So, but we choose the absolute best project to invest for ICOs. And we do that through our global network of advisors that's been feeding us all the great projects they come across. We have a great team in Sydney that does tech review for us. They will look at smart contract, the GitHub code that they released, and they actually dig into the different personal background of the tech team to see if they are qualified to actually deliver what they have promised. And we have a review team in China, that's my team. They will produce a report for every project we come across. We provide it to the board of directors of the ValueNet Capital, and we decided if we want to invest or not. We basically invest $1 to $5 million US for different projects based on their quality, their potential, and yeah, we did very successfully. I mean, our first case is Power Ledger. It's an Australian project. They did power trading. It's a centralized platform, and the team is very strong. It's been proven very successful, and we did some huge investment after that. So China actually is not very exciting right now. It's not very exciting for you. I don't think you should consider investing to any Chinese ICOs right now because the regulation is kind of risky. You don't know what's going to come out next. They might just ban all the ICOs, and then your money will be lost. So don't invest into Chinese ICOs right now. That's my advice. And secondly, I mean, we don't ever invest into Chinese ICOs until the regulations actually came out with something clear and have some clear rules on how they want to trade ICOs. So what we're doing right now in China, not what we're doing, what the Chinese teams are doing, I mean the Chinese ICO projects are doing, is they don't do a public raise. They don't do ICOs. They just do pre-sale, and they just get listed. So they just raise some money through pre-sale, and they just get listed, and they raise money through secondary market. So that's what we're dealing with, the regulations, and we don't know what's going to come next. And the exchanges, all the Chinese exchanges, are going all around the world to do their different exchanges in a different part of the world. I think pretty much the exchange business have been, I couldn't say dominated, but definitely hugely influenced by the Chinese teams. Like Binance is being the top in the crypto-to-crypto exchanges. It's coming from a Chinese team. They are now moving to Tokyo as their headquarters. And several other exchanges have been running around all the world to find a good place to stay. But not all of them are very good. So, and the regulators, they actually have been discussing about blockchain constantly. I think the best outcome that we're going to see, what we hope to see, is actually the government came out to say they want to release a central bank-backed token. Basically, it's pegged to the Chinese RMB, and they will issue that token to you every year, so you can buy, say, 1 million tokens every year. And then if you want to invest into projects or whatever, or trade on the secondary market, then go ahead. So they release the chips, right? If you want to gamble, they give you the chips. but you have to cash out through them. You can't cash out through other ways. You have to come back to the central bank to cash out, so they can control the in and out of the fiat currencies. I think it will be a very smart way to do it, because they will be increasing the liquidity of Chinese RMBs dramatically. So this Chinese RMB will become the most acceptable currency in the world, at least in the crypto world, right? A government-backed cryptocurrency is much better than a company-backed cryptocurrency like USDT. I think there's quite a lot of fraud right now about USDT, and because someone have failed to cash out for $1 million. And there's different solutions to actually create a more stable cryptocurrency without dealing with banks. I'm looking at some of those projects, and I think there might be a better solution to do that. So, yeah, from a Chinese perspective, I would wish that China to actually stand up and become the first. But obviously, Lithuania can try to take them, beat them, right? But I think it's going to be hard because you are still in the European market. You have to go through the European Parliament. So, but I think opening up a blockchain center here is definitely a huge opportunity, because you will attract all the talents, all the crypto projects to come here and to do the business here. We increase the job opportunities here, and bring all the incomes here. I think this will be a great help to boost the fintech innovations in Vilnius and in Lithuania. I think, I might just do some questions, because I didn't prepare a PowerPoint. I think every time I have a PowerPoint for this event, but I decided to not do it, because everything is just more exciting when you do it unscripted, right? So let's ask some random questions. I will see what do you have interest about China?
This is more of a statement than a question. I think regulatory challenges actually present opportunities for some other companies. We now are building the largest development house that is outsourcing blockchain technology and outsourcing blockchain developers to the rest of the world in China, because the ICO and exchange bans mean that everybody can stop messing around and get down to work. So I would like to highlight that China is still a very attractive place to build a blockchain company. Just don't mention the C word.
Hi, so if the very promising Chinese startup want to do ICO, but of course not in China, how can we do?
Of course you can do it. You just need to register in a different country and find a stakeholder. Find a majority stakeholder, preferably be a foreigner, because you were taking regulation risk if you be a Chinese man running a company outside of China doing an ICO. That is still a risk. As Sam said, what some of the Chinese technical teams are doing is they are working with government because they can't issue a token, they can't do a ICO, so they just do outsourcing projects for the government to run basically maybe housing rights or the intellectual property rights projects, where they build into a decentralized platform to increase the productivity. I think that is what the Chinese government is allowing the companies to do in China right now. And the big companies are actually getting a much better advantage. I don't know if you noticed this. When the announcement for the 4th of September came out, they actually did an announcement the right next day saying that they are not banning blockchain technology. They are supporting blockchain technology. And so they give you some examples saying Alibaba is doing something like this, Baidu is doing something like that, and Tencent is doing something similar. So basically saying all the small companies don't think about it, just come to the big companies and they will be doing it for us. And they are working with us. I think that is not fair to the industry, but you have to deal with it. I mean, ICOs as a tool is still very effective. I think I love the innovation of ICO. Just the idea of doing a crowdfunding through a global scale, it's unimaginable. You can have so much potential for dealing with a world-class problem. I think what I see ICO is good at is that you have to have a big dream. You can't just be solving a local problem in a very niche industry because it's too small. You're competing with, in a global scale, you're competing for a limited resource that is Bitcoin and Ethereum. So you have to think about every ICO as your competitor. No matter what industry you are in, because you're competing for a limited resource, and you have to think it in a global scale. I would encourage Vilnius project, if ever you want to do one, to think about global at the very beginning. You can't be solving a local problem by doing an ICO because it will be not recognized by the global market. You have a big dream, and it's a problem for everyone. It has to be relatable to everyone so that they feel comfortable investing in it. They won't invest in anything they don't understand or it's nothing to do with them, right? Then you can solve some great problems like world-class problems with the support from everyone in the world. So basically someone from Africa can invest into your project, and some royal family from England, if they ever have a Bitcoin, can invest into it as well. So there's no difference for the individual investors. I think that will create crazy opportunities for future projects to have. So yeah, that is my remark for the industry. Thank you very much. Oh, there's additional questions. There.
Okay. Can I have a question because I have microphone?
Okay. One question. Yeah.
Okay, so now China is regulating the ICOs and flotation of cryptocurrencies, and there are the rumors, or let's say preliminary announcement that China might regulate the mining, and take into account that at least Bitcoin mining, more than half now is mining facilities are located in China. What do you see? How do you think the industry of mining will evolve?
Yeah, actually, I can answer some of that. I think what has been happening in China is that the mining companies are announcing, they are claiming to be a cloud server company in China to receive government support, government subsidies. They are getting cheaper electricity. They are getting subsidies from the government for running a cloud server company, but instead, they are doing mining. That's what is tricky in China. So right now, the government is taking away their subsidies and taking away their cheaper electricities, basically forcing them out of China. It's not banning them, it's forcing them out of China. So that is what's been happening. I think most of the Chinese mining companies, if they can't get the cheap electricities, they will just move out. It's not economically good for them to stay in China.
So you believe that they will just take equipment and go out to Canada, Russia, or somewhere else?
Yeah, if they can. Yeah, they want to. They're doing that. Actually, Sam wants to answer some question about that.
So we're the largest shareholder in BW.com. We're a mining equipment manufacturer as well. And the equipment game around deploying of facilities depend on how cheap of an access of electricity you have. Now, there are still considerable hydroelectric dams that are not connected to the China grid. These stranded assets are still empowering a lot of mining operations in China, and that's not going to stop anytime soon. So mining in China is going to continue, and it's just that there were some illegitimate players in the ecosystem that tricked local government into getting government incentives that are getting kicked out.
I'm sorry to have to cut this really fascinating discussion. We're slightly running behind our schedule, but clearly we must have a separate, maybe day on just to discuss China. And it's very obvious to all of you who know us that the Blockchain Center Vilnius, our strategy is to build a long-term relationship with Shanghai and Melbourne, and to cater to clients, Chinese companies that want to do business in Europe. So we're very happy to build this relationship. And thank you, Sonic, for sharing your insights.